How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Buddy's House of Horror Podcast, and welcome to films that I am excited about. Welcome to films that are upcoming releases that I cannot wait to see. And I can't wait to get this episode started either, so we're going to get right to the show. But before we do that, you guys got to make sure you're subscribing to the show wherever you listen to the show, leaving me a 5-star rating and a review, and make sure you're telling all of your friends within the spooky realm about Buddy's House of Horror Podcast. Make sure you're pointing this podcast in their direction. And with that, welcome to many films that I am excited about, and you're going to hear about them right here, right now. So it's time to get spooky. How is it going, boys and ghouls, and welcome back to another exhilarating episode of the premier horror podcast on the internet, the only horror podcast on the internet, Buddy's House of Horror Podcast. I hope you guys are all having a splendidly spooky day out there. It is deep into the month of October. It's deep into the Halloween season, so I hope that you guys have all been enjoying yourselves. Obviously, I talk about that a lot on the show. This time of year is all about making the most of the limited days that you have in October, and I'm very thankful that you share part of those days with me, listening to what I have to say. And today, I'm going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be talking about some horror films again that I haven't seen, because these films have not been released yet. Yes, we are talking, actually, I almost said 5. We're talking 10. We're talking a full 10 horror films that are coming out, some towards the end of this year, others into next year, hopefully next year. Some I have a feeling are going to come out in 2026, not 2025. But 10 horror films that I am looking forward to checking out. 10 horror films that are highly anticipated by myself. I don't really buy into hype or anything like that, but these films are films that I'm looking forward to, films that I'm excited about, films that I am stoked to go see them in the theater or see them at home, just see them in some way, shape, or form. Very excited about all of these films, very optimistic about all of these films. One of them is actually a series. So 9 films, 1 series. I'm going to count it as a film because the first 2 were films. But before we get into that, I actually do want to talk about 5 films from this upcoming year that I missed. So really, you're getting a top 15. You're getting 10 unreleased yet films that I am excited to go see, and 5 films that are out right now, or films that came out this year that for whatever reason haven't gotten a chance to see yet, but I need to check them off of my list. So we're actually going to start with the 5 films from this year that are already out that I have not seen yet, but I'm going to make it a point to see them very, very soon. One I want to talk about is a film that has gotten very much mixed reactions from the audiences. Very mixed reactions from my friends, very mixed reactions on the internet. A lot of people say this film sucks, but I'm looking forward to checking it out for slightly different reasons. I understand that it probably isn't that great of a film, because I don't know how it could be. It was a film that was shoehornedly released in January, although it is a film that, from what I understand, takes place outside at night. I'm curious about Night Swim. I'm very, very curious about Night Swim. And I wanted to watch it over the course of this summer. So, for whatever reason, I missed my chance to see it this summer. I refuse to watch this film in any other season than summer, which is why I sort of missed the boat on it this year. So these first 5 films I missed the boat on. Night Swim is definitely one of those films. Everything You Fear is under the surface. Forced into early retirement by degenerative illness, former baseball player Ray Waller moves into a new house with his wife and 2 children. He knows that the backyard swimming pool will be fun for the kids and provide physical therapy for himself. However, A dark secret from the home's past soon unleashes a malevolent force that drags the family into the depths of inescapable terror. It's got a lot of 1 stars. It's got a lot of half stars from people I know on Letterboxd. So I understand this film probably isn't good, but I want to watch it for the aesthetic of it. I think it'll be perfect film to watch outside at night in summer in my backyard. Maybe I'll get a little kiddie pool, fill it up with water, and actually watch the film in a pool. I'm all about creating these aesthetic watches. So I think Night Swim is going to be a fun aesthetic watch for me. Even if it's not that great of a film, at least I could probably have some fun with it in other ways. These next ones all kind of go in a little bit of chronological order from when I think they released, but they all released within the past few weeks or months. And I've just been so busy with so much shit going on, I haven't been able to make it to the theater to see 2 of these. And 2 of these are straight to streaming. Haven't had a chance to check them out yet. But we'll start with The Substance. How the fuck have I not seen The Substance yet? I have gotten tickets for The Substance like 5 times. I've got tickets on my phone for The Substance at least 5 different occurrences and could not go. I mean, obviously, I have a pass, so it didn't affect me too much. I was able to get the refunds for the little fees that I paid to do it online. But, like, I have not seen The Substance. Everyone I know says that this film is phenomenal. Everyone I know says it's phenomenal. I'm hoping to get to the theater to see it this weekend. I'm hoping and praying that I get to the theater and see it this weekend. And if I do, I will hopefully have a review out for you guys by the end of the month. The Substance. If you follow the instructions, what could go wrong? A fading celebrity decides to use a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. So it's a film that's sort of similar to The Rejuvenator, a film that we reviewed on Lost on VHS. I heard this film has insane special effects. I hear it's very trippy. It is a little bit on the longer side, which is part of the reason why it's hard for me to go and check it out. Like, I've just been so busy, and then I know I'm going to be at the theater for at least like 3 hours with trailers, stuff like that. So I've just had a lot of shit come up this month, and I haven't been able to see it. I want to see it this weekend. I hopefully can see it this weekend. Same with the next film on the list, which just came out the other week. I know we're going slightly out of order. So these are the 2 in theaters. Then we'll talk about the 2 that are straight to streaming, just for the sake of the experience of going. Because the other 2, I have little excuse yet, because I could literally pop them on right now instead of recording this podcast, instead of having to go to a theater and go see it. But the next film just came out the last week. It is Smile 2. It's the last thing you'll see. About to embark on a new world tour, global pop sensation Sky Riley begins experiencing increasingly terrifying and inexplicable events. Overwhelmed by the escalating horrors and the pressures of fame, Sky is forced to face her dark past to regain control of her life before it spirals out of control. I wasn't the biggest fan of the original Smile, but this second film I heard is doing phenomenally. I heard that it is a great film all the way around. I know that Jack Nicholson's son is in it. Just overall, I'm very excited about it. Again, like, I wasn't the biggest fan of the first one, so I'm hoping I like this one better. Everyone says that this one's better. I like the marketing campaign for these films. I love how they send people out to sporting events and concerts and whatever the hell, and they just sit there and smile. There was one this year that was pretty funny where the dude almost got hit by a foul ball and broke character, so that was slightly amusing. So those 2 films, hoping to get to the theater this weekend or early next week, definitely before Halloween, to check those ones out. These next 2 are straight to streaming, so I hope to be watching them very, very soon. Hopefully, some night very soon this week. I mean, I want to see these immediately. Like, I want to see these immediately. It's hard to get things going, especially this time of year when you have a billion fucking things happening. But Salem's Lot, straight to HBO Max. Again, mixed reviews, but I am very curious about the film. Be careful what you invite inside. Author Ben Mears returns to his childhood home of Jerusalem's Lot only to discover his hometown is being preyed upon by a bloodthirsty vampire. Obviously, big fan of the original, so I don't know how I'm going to feel about the remake. I've heard very, very mixed things. Miles and I have talked a million times outside the podcast and probably on the podcast too about like the troubled release schedule of this film. I think it was supposed to come out last year, maybe even the year before that. They kept pushing it back. It was delayed. It was going to be in theaters, then it wasn't in theaters. Now it's straight to HBO Max. So like, I don't really know what's going on with this film. It's has a troubling past, I guess. Like, I think that they kind of knew it wasn't going to be that great, so they were really holding off on it. But I don't know. I'm not going to really put a bunch of judgment on it till I see it for myself. But I've heard it's not good. Like, I've heard it's not very great. But a film that is, from what I hear, pretty great, that just came out on Netflix, I want to say, is Woman of the Hour. Directed and starring Anna Kendrick from Twilight, the legend, the icon of their era. In 1978, already gets bonus points for me, a serial killer appeared on live TV as a bachelor on the dating game. The only people who suspected were the woman he pursued. The stranger-than-fiction story of an aspiring actor in 1970s Los Angeles and a serial killer in the midst of a years-long murder spree, whose lives intersect when they're cast on the episode of The Dating Game. Based on true events, I've tried to kind of stay away from a lot of the marketing of it because I want to just kind of experience it what it is. I don't want to have any sort of thoughts about it. Like, I don't want to like go like, oh, I think the film's going to go this way or going to go this way. So I haven't watched any trailers. I haven't done research on the actual case because I want to judge it on its own merits as a film. And that's pretty much all I have to say about these 5 films from this year that I haven't seen yet, but I want to. Now we're into the real deal. So that was a nice appetizer. But we're talking 10 films that are coming out later this year or hopefully next year that I'm stoked about. The first one, as I allude, and I'm going to try to go in somewhat of a release order, but a lot of these don't have release dates yet. So going on, probably what the release order is looking like, what the rumored release order is. This first one is supposed to be going to Shudder in a couple weeks. I thought it was a film at first, but it come to find out it's a series. And that's the Creep tapes. I'm a big fan of the first 2 Creep movies. And, of course, this is brought to us by the same person who did the last one, Patrick Brice, who stars in them, as well as the mastermind behind them. So this is going to be a 6-episode series for season 1. I don't know if they're going to do multiple seasons or what they're going to be doing about it. But the series basically takes place, it takes a look at 6 different tapes. It's the Creep tapes, showing Peach Fuzz and his previous victims. So as you remember from the first film, there is basically like a whole filing cabinet full of tapes of people that this creep has done to people before. So I'm assuming that this is examining some of those tapes. So again, not a ton of information about these films and series that I have knowledge of, because I try to not do a fuck ton of research in order not to let myself down. But am excited about the Creep tapes. Am very excited about the next film that I'm going to be talking about. Probably my most anticipated film of the year, even though I said that for Late Night with the Devil and with Terrifier 3. But this is actually my most anticipated film of the year, by one of my favorite new horror directors, adapting one of my favorite stories. We're talking about Robert Eggers' version of Nosferatu, which is coming out around this Christmas. And very, very excited for this film. Star-studded cast. Bill Skarsgård, Nicholas Hoult, Lily Rose Depp, Willem Dafoe. Come on, guys. And directed by Robert Eggers, of course. Director of The Witch, one of my favorites. Director of The Lighthouse, another one of my favorites. And director of The Northman, a film I think is okay. A film that I like, but not in the upper echelon of films that I love. Nosferatu has a chance to be his best film, in my opinion. The trailers and stuff I've seen look amazing. It's a great story. I really want to see what twists he has. Succumb to the Darkness. A gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. I'm very excited for Nosferatu. Very, very excited for it. Can't wait for it to come out this December. And obviously, love the original film. I like the 70s version as well. I love Nosferatu's appearance in SpongeBob SquarePants. I love Willem Dafoe as Count Orlok Nosferatu from Shadow of the Vampire. Glad that he is back in this film. I think Bill Skarsgård is great. I don't like a lot of his films. I don't like a lot of his film choices as of late. Obviously, The Crow. But I think he's good. So I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with this. I mean, Bill Skarsgård, he's basically become the go-to guy where, you know, that iconic character? Let's do a remake and let's have Bill Skarsgård portray the role. He was Pennywise, he was the Crow, and now he's Nosferatu. He's like, we want to remake a film with a weird little guy, a strange fellow. Let's have it be Bill Skarsgård. That pretty much rounds out what I'm looking forward to for the rest of this month. I'm sure there's other films that are going to come out that I will watch, but those are the films that are really on my radar. Coming up in January of next year. So I don't have that much farther to look forward to. It's only in a few months. Very excited. Obviously, talked about how I love Nosferatu because I'm a big fan of the original story, as I am a big fan of The Wolfman. Very excited for Leigh Whannell to take on the Wolfman story. I wasn't the biggest fan of his interpretation of The Invisible Man. I think it works for a modern retelling. I just really prefer the original Invisible Man, like mythos and how it is more supernatural and it's a science experiment gone wrong. It's not a changing suit. But I'm curious because the Wolfman inherently is supernatural. So he has to have some sort of fantasy element to this. So I am excited to see what he has cooked up. Protect Your Own. With his marriage fraying, Blake persuades his wife, Charlotte, to take a break from the city and visit his remote childhood home in rural Oregon. As they arrive at the farmhouse in the dead of night, they're attacked by an unseen animal and barricade themselves inside the home as the creature prowls the perimeter. But as the night stretches on, Blake begins to behave strangely, transforming into something unrecognizable. Again, it is a different version of the story. It's not Lawrence Talbot doing his thing. But very excited for the potential with this film. Very excited with... I love that the Universal monsters are coming back and people are liking the films. The Mummy's a different story. The Tom Cruise Mummy is a different story. But I like that The Invisible Man was well received. I'm hoping this is well received. The January release date does scare me just a little bit because January isn't really notorious for having great films. But I'm very optimistic for The Wolfman. I'm very much looking forward to it. Another Universal monster film, The Bride. It's coming out shortly after that. Directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, who is a legend in her own right in front of a camera. She's done a little bit of behind camera work, but I have not seen any of them, so I cannot judge her as a director. but I like her as an actor. In the 1930s, a lonely Frankenstein travels to Chicago to seek the aid of Dr. Euphornius in creating a companion for himself. The two reinvigorate a murdered young woman, and the bride is born. She is beyond what either of them intended, igniting a combustible romance, the attention of the police, and a wild and radical social movement. Very excited for this one. Very excited for Christian Bale as the Frankenstein monster. Very excited for Jessie Buckley as the bride. I thought she was great in Men and also great in I'm Thinking of Ending Things. So very excited for their performance in this. Again, love the Universal Monsters. So very excited for a modern retelling of this as well. I know that this is going to be radically different than the original ones. But I like I said, very, very optimistic about it. So I don't have too much else to say about The Bride, but we're going to move on to a film that I also don't have a ton to say because obviously these films aren't out yet. I can only go about saying my judgments on them based upon any trailers or what I think of other films in the franchise, because this one is not a remake. This one is a sequel. It's actually the third film in a trilogy, directed by Danny Boyle. You know where I'm going. 28 years later. The third installment in the 28 Days Later franchise and first in a new trilogy set in a post-apocalyptic world and follows a young boy's journey of survival and discovery. Cillian Murphy is back in this. Of course, Danny Boyle is back behind the director's chair. Very excited about this film. I mean, I really like the original 28 Days Later. I haven't seen 28 Weeks Later in a while, but I'm excited. Very excited for 28 Years Later. So, again, not a ton to say about these films that don't exist yet. But as I said, we can go off our prior judgments of the franchise. This is another franchise film, ladies and gentlemen. Saw 11 is supposed to be coming out next year. We'll see if it does. It's supposed to. The game continues. The 11th installment in the Saw franchise. Plot TBA. That's all Letterboxd has given us about this one. Only 2 confirmed cast members in the film are Tobin Bell, of course, returning as John Kramer, the Jigsaw Killer, and your boy, Mark Hoffman, will be returning in the film. So, again, very, very little information about it, but nonetheless, quite excited. A lot of franchise films coming out. Of franchises that I like. Thread, an Insidious tale, allegedly, is coming out next year. Hope it does. So I love me some Insidious. A husband and wife enlist the help of a spell to travel back in time in order to prevent the death of their young daughter. The consequences, of course, prove to be more severe. Excited. Just very excited about this. I think they handled the end of Josh's storyline well, so I love that they're going to be able to sort of take the series in a different direction, sort of be able to take it place within the same universe, take it place in the further, but have some different characters involved in it. It doesn't always have to be the same family. It doesn't always have to be fucking, what's her name? Her name is escaping me right now, but you know who I'm talking about. The old ghost hunter lady. Doesn't always have to be about her. I'm just excited. Like, I'm excited that these franchises are still around and doing well. And excited to see the film, obviously. Just like the next one, not the biggest fan of every single film within this franchise, but overall, I like this franchise as a concept. Another plot to be determined, but this is the 5th installment in the Hell House LLC franchise. Hell House LLC Lineage, allegedly coming out next summer. allegedly coming out next summer. I hope it does. I enjoyed the first film a lot. The second film, not so much. Third film, thought was pretty good too, aside from some very questionable CGI. Fourth film, also not great. So this series has sort of a track record where odd numbers are good, even numbers not so good. So we're heading into the fifth film, so I am quite excited about it. And those are 8 films that allegedly are coming out next year. They have tentative release dates. These next 2 might come out next year. The last one is definitely going to be a 2026. The one after I talk about this is definitely a 2026. But I still think that there's hope in 2025 for the Backrooms. I think that Kane Parsons' adaptation, based on the viral found footage shows that he did, I think there's still hope for it to see the light of day in 2025. I am very intrigued about it. I have not watched a lot of the original shorts. I've seen clips from them. Obviously, I've seen them on TikTok and stuff like that. I know historically when YouTube short films and stuff get adapted into full-length films, it normally doesn't come with the greatest results, but optimistic nonetheless. I think this one, maybe out of any of those other ones, has the most potential to lend itself to a longer film. Those other ones, they had to sort of... This one, you can kind of go all in on it, because you can be in these back rooms for a while. The other ones, like the Lights Out, I'll use that as an example. Like, the short was like 5 minutes, right? So, or even less. I think it was like 2.5 minutes. So, like, they had to do like the 2.5 minute short and make up a whole bunch of shit around it. This one, there was actual, like, world building, universe building, and you can take place within that universe. So I think that there's more potential for this film to be good rather than something like Lights Out or some of these other films like that. The next one should come as no shocker. As I said, it's probably not coming out next year, but I'm hoping that we get Terrifier 4 in 2026. Very excited about the film. Again, plot is to be determined, but they're going to hell. They're going to the demon realm. They're going to fucking fight a bunch of fucking devils, demons. Antichrist, Art the Clown potentially is the Antichrist. So very excited for where this franchise is going to go. I'm not going to talk about Terrifier 4 a billion times in this episode and ramble on and on about it. Obviously, if you guys haven't seen my review of Terrifier 3, go check that one out. But I love this franchise. Can't wait to see what it has in store next. But I want to hear from you guys. What films are coming out later this year or next year that you are stoked about? I would love to hear from you guys. Hector, if you are listening, I would love to know what films you are looking forward to at the end of this year and leading into next year. Excited for a lot of stuff. These are just 10. Like, I was scrolling through some lists. I was like, oh, that looks good. Like, The Heretic is coming out in a few weeks. I'm excited to see that. Not enough to really include it in the list. It's something I want to see if I have time, but it's not something I need to see in theaters. These ones I need to see in theaters as soon as they come out, or on streaming as soon as they come out on streaming. There's a lot of films that I'm like little iffy on, like, oh, I'll catch it if I have time. But these films, I'm going to make it a point to check them out as early on as possible. So like I said, what are you guys looking forward to? What are you looking forward to towards the end of this month? Again, we do have a few days left in the month. I hope you enjoy your final weekend of October. This is going to be the final weekend of October. Next weekend, it's November. It's Christmas time next weekend, guys. A week from today, it's November 1st. That's totally wild. So with that, go enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the outro. But that's about it for this time, you guys. I hope you enjoyed another episode of Buddy's House of Horror podcast. If you guys haven't already, make sure you're subscribing everywhere you listen to the show. Tell everybody that you know. Demand of them that they watch and listen to Buddy's House of Horror podcast. We'll see you guys back here next week for more episodes of the show. So take care and stay spooky.